Line's good.
Never on.
Whoa.
Hard. Hardly.
Come on, Brent. Line's good. Got real close.
The hair high, right?
Try and hit 2/3.
Have they saved it for her? Yes, they have.
Ooh, welcome to Game of Stones, everybody. I am Sean. Graham Scott is alongside, as always. Hello, Scott.
Sean, good evening.
Yeah.
Some stuff just happened.
Yeah, a lot of things just happened. Recording this just after TSN went off the air Sunday night, and I don't know, Scott. Let's talk about what just happened. There's a lot to talk about from Sunday at the Scotties. Couple things here. Let's start with the last thing we saw on the broadcast, which was Suzanne Birt and Prince Edward Island beating Rachel Homan and Ontario in an extra end, 9-8. And this one's interesting to me in that, obviously, watching the broadcast, we didn't see this whole game. It was not the feature game. But in the 10th end, Rachel Homan has a shot to win. It's not easy by any means. It's sort of an in-off her own to remove a shot or a stone that Suzanne Birt, after she played it in-off of her own, into the button. And she doesn't even give it a chance, right? It crashes on a guard, and Suzanne Birt beats Rachel Homan for the first time at a Scotties. And I don't have much to say in terms of the 11th end. I think both teams played it pretty well. But that 10th end, that's a shot that when Rachel goes down to throw it, you're just like, or at least me, I was sitting here thinking, yeah, she makes it. Like, of course she makes it.
Of course. I don't think you can say both teams played the 11th end well when Emma Miskew hogged a rock.
Right.
You know, it was pretty textbook, I guess, but a few misses along the way. Yeah, I'm looking at the box score for this, Sean, and the thing that stands out is the steal of one in the first end for Prince Edward Island.
Yeah.
After that, Rachel gets her deuce, forces one, gets one, then they trade twos all the way to the 10th end.
Yeah.
So really the big point is that steal there in the first.
Yeah, for sure. That's obviously the difference in the game there as we get down to it. And what's interesting too is, as we've talked about, the teams take their records forward, and losing to Suzanne Birt, there's no shame in losing to Suzanne Birt, obviously, right? Suzanne Birt is a great player. But I'm sure that Jennifer Jones, Chelsea Carey, Robin Silvernagle are sitting there watching this happening, being like, yeah, like give Rachel a loss that in a game that we might not have expected her to lose. So when we're thinking about the end of the week and in the past, anything more than 3 losses, 8-3 guarantees you something in this format. 7-4 doesn't.
No, that's right.
But
that's right.
That loss for Rachel Homan, and now the only undefeated teams are in Pool A, which is somewhat ironic given, part of it is matchups over 2 days and who's played who so far. But the only undefeated teams left are in Pool A and not in Pool B. So this is, to me, a very interesting development early on. A loss for Rachel Homan, everybody in Pool B with at least a loss after 2 days. I would not have expected that. A lot of the teams in Pool A have only played 2 games so far, but it's something to look at as we move to the championship pool in the playoffs, that maybe with this loss, and I hate to sort of overstate and engage in hyperbole, but that's the sort of loss that could open up 4 losses to the playoffs.
Yeah, it could. I would expect them to take care of business against everybody else in their pool.
Right.
It might be a good time now to shift and start talking about British Columbia, who could have, Sean, been the other undefeated team, were it not for a disastrous 7th end. 7th end, was it?
No, they scored 2 in the 7th end. They give up a steal of 4 in the 6th end, Scott.
It was the 6th end,
yeah. So this game, they steal the first 4 points. They steal 3 in the first, 1 in the second. They're up 4-0, and then get the force in the third and get the deuce in the fourth. So they're up 6-1 playing the fifth end. Jennifer Jones plays a really good fifth end.
Really good. Gets a good 3.
Yep.
Yeah. So Lori Eddy, who we'll talk about in a bit, she said of their game, we're just going to play the shots. We're not playing the other team. We're just playing the rocks and the shots. When you're up 6-1, it shouldn't matter what team you're playing against. You should win that game. I say there's like no excuse really at the top level for that to even have been a close game.
No, I agree.
So to give up that 4, and the way they gave it up, we were trying to watch this in the bar, and I was watching on a smaller TV than you, but it seemed like, they just missed their last 4 shots.
Yeah, basically. And that's how you give up steals of 4 at this level, is by missing those shots. Because
the idea would be to keep the opponent's rocks from even being in play to begin with.
Yeah.
So, okay, maybe you give up a steal of 1, maybe 2 at the worst, but that should be the worst.
Yes.
Right? Pretty big lesson for Team BC tonight. We asked last night, Sean, if wildcard should be nervous.
Mm-hmm.
Or maybe we didn't. Maybe I asked it to myself. And Jennifer Jones should be nervous. She's playing really bad.
Yeah, she's playing poorly for sure. And the team is as well. Jocelyn Peterman's numbers way down tonight. Caitlin Law's way down tonight. But they're playing a team in British Columbia. Corinne Brown did not play well. Erin Pincott did not play well. Again, relative to what you would expect at this caliber of play. And I think what's interesting about this game for British Columbia is not just that they give up the 4 in the 6th, which obviously isn't great. But what I found interesting is they come back and in 7-8-9 get the 2 force 2. So they're back up by a point playing the 10th end. Right? So for as bad as that steal of 4 was in the 6th, really good response by British Columbia and Corinne Brown to in terms of the scoreboard management after that, to come back, get the lead, and then in the 10th end, they just missed.
Yep.
Right? There's nothing strategic in the 10th end. I don't think that they did particularly poorly. They just missed the shots. And Jennifer Jones, on her last one, she makes a hit and rolls too far. Right? And you could see it on Jennifer Jones's face. Russ was very complimentary of the shot, and it's a good shot, but it's a shot that gives Corinne Brown an opportunity, and she's heavy. Right? Corinne Brown, if she makes her shot there, her last one in the 10th end, they're playing an extra end with the hammer.
Yeah, absolutely.
So,
and you even saw it earlier in that end where Caitlin Laws was heavy on a draw.
Yep.
And gave BC an out, and they couldn't take advantage of it.
Yeah.
So a lot of lessons for this young team to learn from this game. I can't see. I think if you're British Columbia, you take that as a lesson. You say, okay, whatever. We hung with Jennifer Jones. We should have beat her. Mm-hmm. And then you take that confidence kind of into the next game.
Yeah.
But if you're Jennifer Jones, I don't know what you're doing right now. You might be out on the ice throwing some rocks right now.
Yep.
Tomorrow they'll have a tough game against Suzanne Birt in the afternoon, their only game of the day.
Yep.
Good chance to maybe get some rest in the morning. Then again in the evening, get some good food in you and to bed early. But boy, for a team that is playing as poorly as they are, for them to be 2-1 is pretty insane.
It is really remarkable that they are 2-1 for as poorly as Jennifer Jones has played. But as you said, they were hanging around after that game. They don't play until tomorrow night, as you said, against Suzanne Birt, so a chance to practice. And when you look at their schedule, as we talked about for this pool, we thought that Pool A was a little more top-heavy. And, they get the win against UConn this morning, but, Suzanne Birt tomorrow night, then they get Northwest Territories, Nova Scotia, Newfoundland, and Labrador, you got to think there's 2 wins in there for them into that championship pool. So even as poorly as Jennifer Jones is playing, and maybe having all day off tomorrow is good for them. And practice tonight and just hang out, relax tomorrow, do whatever it is you do, and maybe that'll be good for them. That pressure of that wild card game, trying to make sure you get into the full field event. So it'll be just interesting to see. I hope that's the feature game tomorrow. I don't know if it will be because we've already had so much Jennifer Jones, but that'll be fun. And that's Suzanne Birt's only game tomorrow, as well, as she tries to go in 3-1. So that's a game that, could be a make or break for Suzanne Birt in terms of playoffs.
Yeah, it could be. They're looking pretty good right now to at least advance that championship pool.
They have 3 games that they should win. With respect to Newfoundland, Labrador, Yukon, and Northwest Territories, those are 3 games that they should win. Now, we've seen Suzanne Birt in past years lose games that we thought she should win, but even if she loses to wild card, you gotta think she's looking good for 5-2.
Yeah, you'd anticipate that. Now, looking at the teams that might be crossing over, going 2-2 against those teams is a bare minimum, likely 3-1. So
yeah.
It's still a tough road to hoe, but if she can pull out this win tomorrow and then take care of business, she's looking pretty good.
Yeah, so that wild card British Columbia game was wild. As we said, Jennifer Jones gives up a steal of 3 in the first, but then Robin Silvanegro says, "Hold my beer, Jennifer Jones." She gives up a steal for 3 in the second end to Lori Eddy and Team Nunavut in a game that I think the crowd at Mosaic Place was a little nervous there after 2, Scotty. Saskatchewan comes back and wins 11-8 over Nunavut. A nice recovery for them after the afternoon game where they lose to Team Canada and Chelsea Carey in a game, Scott, that you got very fired up about.
Yeah, Sean, I was fired up today. We met over at the pub. We were going to play pub quiz at 7:30, and I asked you how much you'd seen of it. To me, Robin Silvernagle skipped away this game against Team Canada. Chelsea Carey was horrible in the game. Not as horrible as she was yesterday, but pretty bad.
Yeah.
And the way, they talked about it a bit on the broadcast that Silvernagle had said she wants to skip as if there's no crowd there. Well, she definitely heard the cheers of the crowd and got a little bit big. She was playing run backs to try and score 2, sometimes 1. I didn't understand why she never took her medicine and made a draw. She's up 2-1, tries a slash. Okay, we missed it. 2-2, then tries it again in the next end. And it just seems to me like she was playing for that big crowd moment and not necessarily playing to win the game. She gave Chelsea Carey these steals. They weren't like great steals, where she put the rock in the exact right position. They were misses by Silvernagle. She shot 55% on the day. We've talked about shooting percentage and it not really meaning anything, but in this one, yeah, it does, because you're the skip. You need to make the final shot to at least score some points and get your team momentum a little bit back. I was just, bum puzzled a couple times about why she was doing what she was doing. And then to give up, in the 10th end, that shot that she tried, I don't know. I don't know. She was trying for the win. The coach came out, right? Pat Simmons.
Yeah. And
he said, if you throw board weight at it, maybe you'll just make the roll if you hit it too thick, and that's okay. You'll get 1, go to an extra. Well, Sean, she came out with a 9.5 second hit. She chucked it. And I was flabbergasted as to why she threw that much weight. It must have been adrenaline, right? Because where she had the broom wasn't right for that kind of weight. So anyway, I really thought she skipped her team out of a win in that game, and Chelsea Carey's team should be very fortunate. They're be thanking somebody that they escaped that one with a win.
Yeah, I disagree slightly in the 10th end that it's a long double to make, right? She's going from, it's the overhead cam, sort of top left, around between 10 and 11 o'clock, roughly, back to about 5 o'clock. That's the double that she's trying to make. I don't mind playing weight at that. I understand Pat Simmons' point where if you roll and score the one, that's fine. You go to the extra end. I think Robin Silvernagel's strength is the big weight, right? That's what we've seen from her historically, right, through her career, that she wants to play the big weight. That's where she's more successful. And I would argue that she's going to make that double more frequently than she's going to steal a point in an 11th end from Chelsea Carey. So I didn't mind it as much as you did. I agree that through the game, definitely some struggles. But in terms of that decision, I didn't mind it nearly as much as you did.
Sean, I didn't mind going for the double. I minded throwing 9.5 second weight at it.
But that's
right?
what she's best at. That's what her strength is.
Well,
her strength is not throwing hack weight. That's not what she does.
So if she's best at that, then put the broom in the right spot. Because where she put the broom was for board weight.
Yeah,
so,
okay. But, I mean, that's the product of throwing 55%. Right? She didn't have the ice. Like, she didn't know. I don't think it matters at that point, right, the way that she was struggling, what you do in terms of, board weight, up weight, like whatever it is. Like you go with your strength and you hope you get it right.
Well, then, yeah, but then give yourself a chance. I felt she didn't give herself a chance on that last shot with that amount of weight. Pat Simmons was right. You only had to move that back rock. You didn't have to take it out of the rings. You had to move it 2 inches. And you score your 2 points and you win the game. So obviously we disagree.
We do.
Listeners, you tell us who's right. Obviously it's me. Anything else stick out to you from the afternoon draw? I kind of want to.
From the afternoon, not really. Overall, nothing really stands out from the afternoon. It's sort of what you would expect elsewhere across the sheets. We already talked about Suzanne Birt. She gets a nice win over Marianne Arsenault there in that afternoon draw. This morning, nothing particularly interesting in the feature game. I understand why they picked Alberta versus Quebec. Not really much of a matchup there. But the story of the morning, of course, was Team Nunavut and Lori Eddy getting out to a lead against Manitoba and Carrie Anerson. I don't know if it's unfortunate or not. Certainly unfortunate for Team Nunavut. The wheels sort of fell off once the TV transferred over. Once TSN went to Sheet A to watch that game, the wheels sort of came off for Team Nunavut. And, I mean, Carrie Anerson did not play particularly well whenever they flashed over, and even when they made it the feature game. But Lori Eddy misses a big shot in 9, gets run out of stones in 10. But they give it a nice run, lose 6-4, had a lead for a while. I think that was the most interesting thing to happen this morning. But overall, the morning draw was sort of what you would expect.
Yeah, I agree. Carrie Anderson had a shot in the 8th to take 2, and I believe was heavy. My feed cut out right as it was happening. So, but she only got her 1 with the hammer, and you thought, oh boy, this is really juicy now. Nunavut can get 1 or 2 and come in up into the 10th, and yeah, Lori Eddy missed her last shot in 9 there. You said she came up light. Is that right?
Yeah, way light. Carrie Anerson had one in the 12-foot, one top 4-foot that Lori Eddy was trying to bump back to score the single, and she ends up light on the guard. And it's one of those things, and they said this on the broadcast, Kathy mentioned that even if you come to the face of the shot stone there and you only give up 1, you give yourself a much better chance to win the game in the 10th end. And she was just way light to give up a steal of 2 there. And it was a tough shot to score at all. And we've seen, statistically at least, some teams choosing that being down 1 with the hammer is actually better for them than being up 1 without the hammer. So, again, playing it a little wider, making sure you cut out second shot rock in order to only give up 1 there might have been the better play But overall, if you look at the numbers for Team Nunavut, Sadie Pinkston really struggled in this game. The front end was both shot in the 50s, but Sadie Pinkston mixed a couple shots there in the 9th and in the 10th end that didn't really put Lori Eddy in a position where they could score late in the game. So it's not all on that shot, but that's one that I'm sure if you ask her, Lori would certainly want back.
Yeah, absolutely. And then in the 10th end, Sadie had a shot they hit a rock that was probably a third buried, maybe a half buried, and sit 4 and crashed on the guard, rolled out. It was a little too much weight. Then Carrie Anderson was able to make a double, or maybe not Carrie, maybe her third. But anyway, they were able to make a double, and sort of all the Nunavut rocks were gone, and then they were just trying to make a freeze, sort of hoping and praying. So
yeah, which was actually lucky.
You wonder what that end would be like.
So yeah, Val makes the triple there, or the double in time, but the one before she had a hogline violation. So that right. Opens up the door for Nunavut there, and they just can't take advantage.
Yeah, because if she makes that shot, they're sitting 4.
Yeah.
And feeling pretty good about themselves, right? Then Carrie's gonna have to make, they're gonna have to make a couple doubles at least to try to not give up anything. I mean, they're trying to get 2 to tie. The chance for 3 would be there, sitting 4. Yep. So tough go, but you know what? They're getting their Scotties legs under them, and it's fun to watch, right?
For sure.
Fun to watch.
And that was the only game for Carrie Anderson and Manitoba today, but they are back on the ice tomorrow morning. That is going to be the feature game on TSN as they play Northern Ontario and Krista McCarville, who won her game today. So a couple 2-0 teams. There's 3 undefeated teams left, all in Pool A, 2 of whom are playing each other tomorrow morning. Gonna be a lot of fun, and it's a holiday Monday in a lot of the country, but not for us.
Yeah, not for us. We will be at work, but that's sort of the key matchup I'm looking for tomorrow. Northern Ontario, Manitoba. Later in the evening, as you mentioned, the PEI wildcard game will be a good one. BC's taking on Ontario as well. Yeah. Oh, and then Saskatchewan, Alberta. Oh boy, you got 3 big games you want to watch there tomorrow night. So that should be a good night of curling.
Yeah, and I think that afternoon draw too. We might get a double dose of Carrie Anderson tomorrow. Manitoba, Canada, in the afternoon. They might give us Newfoundland Labrador against Nova Scotia as well, but certainly the feature game in terms of standings, I think, will be Manitoba, Canada, because if you give Chelsea Carey a second loss there, really setting her behind the 8 ball moving forward. So a lot still to be decided. A day, Scott, if Saturday was kind of chalky, today a little more interesting, and more decisions to question. Players still struggling, haven't quite figured out the ice yet. And as we continue through the week, it will be interesting to see how Dave Merklinger and his crew out there in Moose Jaw respond to the players and some of the struggles, and whether or not the players can pick up the ice better and we start to see more made shots.
Yeah, for sure. It was a spicy day, I would call it.
Yes. Yes. So,
do you know if Saskatchewan has Family Day tomorrow?
I believe it's called Saskatchewan Day.
Well, they referred to today a lot as Saskatchewan Day on the broadcast.
Oh, well, tomorrow is a holiday, unless things have changed since I lived out there. This Monday is a holiday there. It's Louis Riel Day in Manitoba. Of course, Family Day in Ontario. I think it's something in BC. I don't know what it's called.
Yeah, it's BC. I think it's Family Day as well.
Okay, I think in Yukon it's just called Yukon Day.
How about all of our listeners across the great country? Write in and tell us what holiday.
Yeah, what holiday is it in your province or territory? And if you work for the federal government in this country, just go to work.
Yeah, just go to work and stream some curling.
It'll be good.
Don't do that. Don't do that. No.
Yeah. Is it a holiday in the United States too? Is it like Columbus Day or something?
It's President's Day weekend.
It's President's Day weekend there in the United States. So,
but I don't think it's a holiday. It's just hey, the presidents have birthdays.
Yeah, that's the thing that people have. So happy whatever it is where you are. If you get tomorrow off, good for you. Enjoy it. Watch a bunch of curling. Fun day today at the Scotties. We're looking forward to tomorrow, some marquee matchups through all three draws. So we'll be back with you tomorrow night to break it all down as we start to see who will be getting into that championship pool. Teams jockeying for spots is, of course, we look forward as well of who's accumulating losses and how that might affect them. Looking forward to the Page playoffs, which kicks off, of course, on Saturday. So enjoy the curling, everybody. Follow along with us all week long on Apple, Google, wherever it is you get your shows. You can also follow us Twitter, Instagram at Game of Stones Pod. Scott's there at Scott Likes TV, and I am at Dr. Shawnee Fever. And as always, you can email the show, Game of Stones Podcast at gmail.com. So we'll be back with you again tomorrow night. But until then, keep your brooms on the ice and don't dump that intern.
Make the final.